My name is Rhys Langlands. Today we're going to be talking about a climb that I've done back in October in Switzerland called Off the Wagon that a lot of people have probably heard of.
Yes! Come on! Come on!
For me personally, what makes it so special is a film produced by Big Up Productions, like 2005 or 6. First climbing film I ever saw, and it was when it was still a project. Dave Graham had found it, and it just looked so incredible, and some of the best climbing footage ever to this day of Chris Sharma trying it, and he didn't do it. Chris Sharma, who was probably the best climber in the world at the time, which has always stuck in my mind. For those who are geeks about climbing films and videos, that's right up there. So for me, that's why it's so special and so famous, but also it's just very unique. It's a 2-move boulder with some moves that are still pretty futuristic for rock. It was done quite a while ago. I think it is probably the only boulder in the world that I know of anyway that starts on a wagon. What makes it so iconic is probably the aesthetics of the moves. It's very photogenic, it's a ginormous boulder just because, one, how hard it is. It's one of the harder 2-move boulders in the world, and it's certainly the hardest one that starts on a wagon. Also the location, the village that it's in is an incredible place, one of the most incredible, most scenic places I've ever been. It's got a bit of an aura. Can't quite explain why, but I definitely felt it when I was there. I felt there was no one there, but it felt like I was being watched. It felt like there was more pressure than other boulders, which was a bizarre feeling, but sort of understandable considering how special and iconic it is. Off the Wagon it was initially proposed as V14 but has been downgraded and settled at V14, and it's got a sit start which gets V16 as well. Climb up onto the wagon, you lean back because the wall is really steep. It's about 50 degrees I would say. You lean back and sort of nestle into this really good in-cut hold. For me, I stand up on high left smear and a low, really good right foot. A problem that there's not much to it and there's not a lot of trickery. It's still quite technical. I found what was best for me was going just straight to the hold, the first hold. Pretty good edge, and you're not really pulling up, you're pulling out. It's like almost like an iron cross, and it's pretty big, but it's a really good edge, but sort of slanted towards you, sort of falling that way. For me, the easiest thing from that point was to just lock it off and campus through. From there, all the holds are really, really good, and it does get quite tall, but the slab that you finish on as you traverse around to the right, pretty easy. I'd be surprised if anyone has fallen off that. All the holds are a lot bigger than you'd expect. It's just the moves are really, really hard between them, and they're not hard simply because they're powerful. It's just because they're hard to direct your force perfectly in the right place and land on the hold perfectly. I think replicas do work. I know there is one on the kilter board which is like V11, so it's not quite as hard, but similar moves. When I tried it at first, I knew I could do it. Then I came back to Switzerland and all I had to do was try it a few times to know that I was close, and then I did it relatively quickly. I had altogether probably 6 sessions on it, which is not a lot. It didn't really feel a limit, and I've got to be honest, when I did it, it felt pretty chilled, it felt pretty easy, but until that point it doesn't feel close. To start with, I stuck the campus move, I flashed the campus move, but I couldn't stick the first move, and it's very demoralising because you hit the hold every single time and you're like, yes, I'm going to stick it, and then you don't, and you don't know why. It's actually a very complex move. Once I started trying different things and trying to hit it in different places and move in a different way, I'm gonna stick this, and then I stuck the first move and couldn't link them together. It was difficult at points. There's a lot of pressure on climbing trips. I don't get a lot of time these days to go, not as much as I used to go like climb on rock all the time. When you've got 2 weeks off work, you've trained hard, you know, you might not get the weather, you might be ill, which I was for the majority of this trip actually. It was wet quite a lot of the time. You know, the pressure builds up. I was really, really nervous the day that I did it, which I don't usually perform well when I'm feeling like that, but I managed to to eke it out of myself, and I was just feeling so strong that day that I just couldn't fall off. The difference between rock and indoor, I enjoy both almost just as much as each other for different reasons. I think indoors is a consistent way of keeping motivated, and if you're not motivated to train, like if you're only motivated when you climb something on rock, if you live in Scotland, then that's not very often because the weather is really bad. A main difference is conditions. Like there's a lot less to consider when climbing indoors. It's a lot more accessible. It's easier to train indoors than it is outdoors, but because of these reasons as well, it's a lot more rewarding when you climb something outdoors. So you could say climbing indoors is like drinking tea and climbing outdoors is like drinking coffee. It hits you hard, very short and sharp outdoors, but indoors keeps you streamlined, keeps you motivated all the time. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed my breakdown of Off the Wagon. Hope it's encouraged some of you to go try it. Can't wait to go back for the sit start. Maybe not this year, but maybe next year. Subscribe to our channel, Langlands Climbing. It's the hottest in climbing at the moment.